to this computer. Okay, so what I want to get done today is I want to actually get our sign up route done. So let's see. So yesterday we did our sign in route. We did quite a bit yesterday, actually. So we added tests for check user login. We added tests for auth sign in. No, actually we did more the day before. We updated check user login to return the user on success so that that user could be handed to Passport, which would attach it to the request object. And then we added code to generate a token on sign in. So our general plan for today is going to be, we're going to make a sign up route. And the sign up route is going to return either an error if it was bad user info. For example, so bad user info example would be blank email or password, or email already in use, or return a JWT if user created. Cool. And James, if you have questions, you can just chat them. I wish that you could speak them, but apparently the technology is thwarting me there. Okay, so, all right, so here, so we actually are not really going to use Passport here. This is the one route where we're not going to use Passport.
Yeah.
So let's go to auth. And let's make, oh, and the way I've been doing it is in authentication. I've been making my, my route functions. So let's go to authentication and make the route function. So let's make another one for sign up. Make sure we export it. And now actually let's go back to auth.js, our routes, and let's do an auth router. Is it what type of route is this going to be? Get, post, patch?
Well, we want to post.
And then we'll just do authentication. No middleware necessary. Okay, fine. So that's basically all I need here. And now let's go back to our function. Express function meant to be used to handle sign in post request. Sign up post request. Okay, so we are at some point going to do this, but not yet. So what are our steps here? And Celeste, you get to be my my Socratic method, but you're the only one that responds anyway in general. So okay, so what are my steps?
So we want to make sure that email and password both exist and are not empty.
Well, we want to make sure email and password aren't empty. But so that's one error condition, is if email and password are empty. What's the other error condition?
If the emails are empty.
Have a great weekend, Bree. Oh, okay. I will too, briefly. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. So, let's destructure a request. And, you know, at some point, it probably will want, if we have a duplicate, you know, like a repeat password thing on the front end, we can handle that on the front end if they're different rather than handling it on the back end.
Oh, right. Like I type your password.
You type it twice. Yeah. So we don't need like password 1 and password 2 on the back end. We can just handle that on the front end. So make sure email and password aren't empty. So if empty strings are falsy, right?
I like when we ask that question.
Well, the reason is in Python, empty strings are falsy, empty lists or arrays are falsy. Like basically empty anything is falsy in Python, but that's not true in JavaScript. And so I can't remember what in JavaScript.
No.
Are empty strings falsy?
I think empty strings are falsy.
Okay.
I just like that. I like hearing that question like multiple times.
Yeah. I'm going to be going back to Hackbright and teaching a guest lecture. What's that? Yeah, empty objects, and I think empty arrays aren't falsy either, which empty dictionaries are falsy. Empty lists are falsy. Okay. All right. So if we're going to do a res dot status 422 bad input.
Don't you need more?
Thank you. Dot, let's see. Yeah. So 422.json message, email and password must not be blank. And we'll return that just so that we don't have to do a bunch of else's. Okay. What am I going to do here?
Use one of the methods you wrote to query the database with the user email.
Not check user login. Get user by email. Okay. And it looks like it'll be null if the user's not in the database. All right. So cool. So if, oh, but this is a return situation because it's a promise. So get user by email, email. And now we're going to do a dot then. And we'll say if not user, we'll return this. Otherwise, finally, we'll do this.
Well, that would be backwards, right? We want to generate the token if there is no existing user already.
Yeah, that's what I said.
But then I'll a different message.
Now you happy?
Yeah.
And we can do like a dot catch. Okay, let's test it. Okay, so
Well, don't we want to add the user to the database? The voting one?
okay, fine. Okay.
Just a ephemeral user.
Yeah. So so this is a when a user signs up, what data do we need to get from them? And do we have an add user to Davy? Oh, we do. God bless us. Okay, so we need a name, an email, a password, and a primary city. Awesome. And boy, I love that we already have this and don't have to write it. So, okay, so we'll do const add user. Okay. And then so we'll do add user and with some stuff, and then we'll do a dot then. Okay. So and it's actually going to be, we'll generate the token from off of that response that we get, because add user should return the user row. So let's look. Yeah, return, it resolves to an object representing the row. So that's good. And it actually needs name, email, password, and primary city. And are we going to require all of those? let's say we're also going to require a primary city, but if the person doesn't want to tell us their name, then whatever. Okay. So let's and then here now we can add user this.
Will that
Now are you happy? You shouldn't be, because we've got a problem here. Okay. Yeah, what were you gonna ask?
if there is no name, what do we pass?
If there is no name, what are we passing? We're passing a null, right? Or undefined, I suppose. Yeah, good question.
And will that be cool with our query?
Yeah, let's check. Can we give it an undefined here? Maybe not. So I actually think we probably can't. So let's give it an empty string instead. So we can just do that here. So oh, but I made it a const up here. So
Are you doing Rome?
I am doing Rome. Okay. So let's do, I didn't announce it. That was really bad of me. Sorry about that. So here, let's do, I wonder if we can do this.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Let's try it.
Let's try it. Okay. Okay. So, anything else, madam?
I think you're good.
Okay. All right. So let's, now we can test it. Okay. So let's, all right. So Celeste, or Sabrine, what am I going to test here?
Good case.
Good case.
Empty email or password case and already used email case.
I also want to test a blank name case, right? A non-existent name case, right? Okay. So I want to do a describe user added, because I'm going to want to do a lot of things in the user. I'm going to want to do a lot of tests. So I'll say context. Yeah, we can say complete request. So here, let's do a let response. And I'll say before, and I don't need to do it before each, just a before. And something like that. Okay, so try request app, sign up, email test. No. That's something that already exists. So and password. Thank you. And we also need to have a primary city. Okay. All right. And then we're just going to say, just so that we have that for all of our its. It. What are some its? Is it because you're too lazy to actually say, or is it because you're not sure?
It does the thing right. it gives us back a token. It works.
Okay. So how are we going to test that?
How did we test it before?
There you go. All right. Now what? What else? What else?
What else does it mean? That's all it does. That it puts it in the database.
How are we going to test that one?
Right in the database.
Okay. How am I going to do that?
Using the database query that we wrote. Look up get user by email.
Okay. Oh. All right, so what am I going to do down here?
You probably want to like put the email in a variable so that you're not repeating it multiple places.
Okay. And to be honest, I probably want to do because I don't just want to know whether the email got into the database. I want to know whether it got into the database with the right password. Or is that retesting my add user thing? Maybe that's retesting add user.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay, so now what?
Now return get user by email. Stop in. Right.
Let's not use response again. Sorry, Mita, I really was not clear that I was doing this. It's being recorded. That's the saving grace. So you can hear the Bonnie Celeste conversation in its full glory. Okay, so now what am I doing?
Now you expect user.email to equal HP email.
Yeah, and actually, I don't even need to do that because like it's got to match if it responded anything. All right. Okay, I think I'm good. All right, so now let's do a context incomplete request. How thorough do we want to be? Do we want to test if it has like an email and not a password? And then
It does the same thing. Either way, it's the same line, the same statement.
yes, but the test. So this is an interesting test theory question. If we changed the implementation, then perhaps it would break in a way that the test did not catch. I mean, I'm just saying I don't think your reason is good. I'm not saying that I necessarily think that we should like do all possible combinations of this and not that and whatever, but I don't think that your reason is the reason that we shouldn't.
Do you think there's another reason that we shouldn't?
Yes. I think that we shouldn't because I don't think it would gain us much. It would be a lot of work, and I don't think it would be worth the work for us to consider all possible combinations. I don't think that, and I mean, maybe it's sort of similar to what you're saying, but I don't think that this particular part of our code is so risky or so at risk of breaking that it's worth us spending 20 minutes to write tests for every possible scenario.
Because it's the same thing on one.
So, okay. So incomplete request. Yeah, but I do think when you're testing, you should not test based on how you know the code is written, because the implementation, you do not want changing the implementation to break your tests, right? Which is a little different than what we're talking about here. You're relying on the implementation to justify your tests, but
Well, sort of, yeah. I mean, I guess the specific thing I'm saying is, but just that it's the same scenario, like that we need these 3 pieces of data,
yeah,
and like it's not a.
it's hard to
different
think of an
environment.
implementation that would break it, which is, I think, sort of why I'm saying screw it. We don't need to. Yeah. So context, incomplete request. So let's do some its here. It has no name, which is actually the interesting one, right? Because that
Well,
one should work.
Yeah, but we already tested that.
Good point. It has no name. So and instead of actually doing a response, because we're only going to do one test for this, we just want to make sure that we get a token. We're going to make an assumption that it added it to the database based on our test up here. If it returns a token, we're going to assume it added it to the database. Again, this is like where testing is kind of an art. What do you test and what don't you test? And yeah, and you have to balance completeness with wasted effort. I know you think all tests are wasted effort, Celeste, but I'm not going to tell your future employers that. Okay, so it now I think I'm actually going to do a for each. Am I? Okay, so do you think I should just do one more test where all the other stuff is missing? Or should I do a test for where one of each is missing? I think I should do a test where one of each is missing. And what would be the modular thing to do here?
To
Separate them out? Okay.
What do you think?
I think I want to do one of each, because so let's say I was only checking for email and password and I wasn't checking for primary city, then my test would pass if I tested all 3 of them being blank at once, even though I wasn't testing to see if, and it would, so my test would pass even if I wasn't checking for primary city being blank, if I made all 3 of them blank at once, because it would just catch that email was blank and be like, okay, great, it sent a 422 response. So it returns an error, or it returns an error if email is missing, okay, and Why are you upset about that? Oh, because we're not in jest. Okay. And I'm actually going to copy this whole thing before I remove. So now I can just say, so now I'll delete this. And then I'll say it returns an error if password is missing, and I'll delete this. And then it returns an error if primary city is missing, and I'll delete this.
Wait, so you want to use for each for this?
The reason I didn't want to use a for each is because then, like, getting the send is a little bit more difficult, but I can. All right, let the record state that Celeste wanted to use a for each. So if we do that, what's that?
We don't have to.
Okay. So up here, I'm going to actually say const user obj equals this. And, oh, wait, is this? Okay, and we have to do that up there. And then, okay, so Celeste wanted to do for each. Was Celeste who wanted to do. Okay, so no, it's better practice to do it for each. You're totally right. So I am going to say, let's see, this user and I have to copy it. I have to make a copy because I'm going to change it. Okay, so hold on. Let's do, this is like, because objects are mutable. Okay, so okay. Okay, and if I do an obj.delete a, can I do that? No. How do I do a remove? Nope. Okay, obj dot. I can do obj dot a equals undefined. And now, oh, no, a is actually in there and undefined. I want to actually remove it. So let's remove key from object JavaScript. Delete operator, right? I tried delete.
There isn't any method in an object itself to delete its own properties.
Delete employee.firstname. So if we do delete obj.a. Okay. Now the question is, if I say obj2 objects are mutable. So how do I make a copy of the object instead? I really don't get why no one suggests object.create O. Just use object.assign. 1,214 people can't be wrong. Okay. or delete. No, object.assign did not work.
Because the first parameter has to be the object that you are assigning to. If you want a new,
Okay, tell me how it's done.
Object. Okay, what you're trying to create?
I want to create O2 that's a copy of O.
Okay.
So that when I modify O2, it doesn't modify O.
Object.assign O2, right. So empty. So you want to create an empty object first, and then so assign O2 to an empty object, and then pass it.
All right. Okay. Mutability. Fun stuff. Okay, so this user is equal to an empty object. Object, I'll do a const. Object.assign this user. Oh, James. Oh, sorry, James. This was like years ago that you asked this. Oh, and look, you were telling us, oh, look at that. Okay, hi. Can you set up Redux forms to refuse a sign up without a password? Yes, James. Would it make this test case less likely? It would make it less likely, but not impossible, because this is an API that people could use programmatically and so forth. So we still need to protect against it, but it would make the test case less likely. And thank you very much for the object.assign stuff. And look, yours is better than Celeste because I don't have to make a fake thing. I can just put an empty array in there. So, okay. Okay, so const, oh, somebody made popcorn. Was that you, Brittany? Okay. Object.assign, and then what did I said? User obj. And then this user, or let's see, it was delete this user, dot notation or bracket notation here? Yeah, bracket, because if I used dot notation, I would be looking literally for the key prop. Okay. Okay, we happy? How's it going over there, Mita?
I just lost it something.
This stuff is actually really important, this mutability stuff. We don't talk about it that much here. But the fact is, unless I did this object.assign, when I was going up here, like object and object2 were pointing to exactly the same place in memory. So when I deleted something from object2, it got deleted from object as well. And that's not what I wanted here. Here, what I wanted was to be able to use the same object that I defined up here and just remove things one at a time. And leave that object intact. And so the way to make a copy, in Python you use the function called copy. In JavaScript, you do object.assign, and object.assign will actually make a copy of this so that when we modify this user, it won't modify the user object. Did that help?
That's why we use it so much with React, because when you're setting the state, you can't change the object, you have to make it.
Yeah, well, so in React, we actually wouldn't do this. In React, because we're using Webpack, we would do, right? And that accomplishes the same thing. This is, Node won't interpret this. What?
We are not using Webpack so far.
No. But yes, so when you return state, you always do ... state, and then whatever else you want. Okay, so cool. Let's so our last context is if the email is in the database. So we had a complete request. We had an incomplete request. I don't like what's going on there. Does that complete that context? It does. Okay, and so all of this should, okay, and then all right, so for this one, we'll just do an it returns a 422 status. Fine. And it's a question. Should we just do an it here and not a context since we have only one it in here? For parallelism, it's nice if we decide to do another test here, like testing the message. So I'm going to leave it. But this one, we want to have the same catch that we do here. But in this case, we want, and we want to make sure that we give it all of the necessary things because we don't want it to hit the case where it doesn't have a necessary thing. So all right, let's try it. Okay. Okay. Let's this is good stuff. Most of it passed, but our complete request actually didn't pass. So it didn't return a token because it cannot read body of undefined. Okay, I think maybe when I did the response equals response stuff, it was upset. Yeah, I probably blew away the actual response. Yeah. All right. So let's let's try that instead. And except, yeah, so let's just see whether that was the problem. Oh, okay, so it fixed one, but it expected null not to be null. Okay, So let's take a look at our test and see if we can figure out why. So we wanted to get user by email. Okay. So I'm going to look at our route. What's that?
I was gonna say, can we look at our database to see if it's added and is like where, yeah, if it's not getting added at all or if it's just something else.
Still no. Okay.
You doesn't like that or thing.
Maybe. We got an error. Okay. Let's see what happens if we, if we do this. But it generated it. Well, it generated an error, but let's. Okay. Here. All right, so why is it doing it so many times? I don't like any of this. Okay.
Incomplete request.
What's that?
It says incomplete request.
That's like context.
Yeah, but I know. Why is it actually doing this in our incomplete request? Because it shouldn't be, because we returned here. Or here, I should say we returned. So let's.
Well, our first incomplete request is without a name, which we want.
Right.
So is that?
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay, good. So that's 2 of them. Oh, and then, but so why 3?
Yeah.
Email exists in DB. And it's actually.
Because I think that one is because it was test.test.test.
Oh, thank you. All right. Yes. Okay. So this is fine. So it is returning. All right. So that's good. Let's go back here. So we're doing the res.json and it's doing an add user and we're getting a response and we're doing a return. So we're waiting for it. But it's still. When we do this,
Do we need a return in there?
no, because the only reason we're doing returning on these is not because of asynchronicity. It's just so that it won't proceed. Okay, so our problem is here. So get user by email, HP email, is returning null. So let's actually see what we're getting here. Okay. I mean, I'm not sure what else to do at this point. Okay. So why is it testing before we've gotten the response? Good Lord.
Because no, because we're doing it in the thing to make sure that the email isn't already in the database.
Oh, right. You're right. So, and then we're doing it down here. Right, you are. And then we're doing it down here. And didn't I print out what it was? No, I'm just printing out too much. Okay, and all right, I just need to stop doing that oh no stuff because it's going to drive me crazy. And we only got one email already exists, so that's good. Okay, so, all right, so it's no surprise that it's user null because basically it was telling us that it was null. But why? Because when we add the user here, we are returning it and we're getting a response. So we've clearly added the user.
Yeah.
We're returning it, so asynchronicity is not a problem. Oh, is it because we're resetting the database before we do the test? I think we might be resetting the database before we do the test. I think that's what's going on. Because there's a before each reset database.
But before each.
It's going to be before each of these its. It's going to reset the freaking database.
Okay. It's not just before the each context.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. But so what I want to do is okay, so I'm going to reset the database there. I'm going to reset the database here. And now I'm really happy that I did that. That I did this array because now I only have to reset the database here once instead of 3 times. So, fine, Celeste, you were right.
Do we need to return try dot?
We do. Thank you. Yes, you're absolutely right. That one returns chai. This one does not. All right, chances. Anybody want to take bets?
80%.
80%?
I say it's gonna pass.
Yeah, you're 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, 7 passing, and a bunch of printout crap that we don't need.
Is your battery low?
Yes. You trying to get out of here?
No, I was gonna, I'll bring a charger.
Thank you. I'm about done. So let me just make sure that I've removed all of the prints statements. Nope. Email in. Okay, and let's just for fun, because this is my idea of a good time, run all of our tests. Regression testing, make sure nothing else broke. And so what we did today was we made a sign-in route. That sign-in route checked to see whether the user already existed in our database. It checked to make sure we had good data, and it returns a JSON web token when we add the user, which we will then take back and store in the local storage on the front end so that we can use that to authenticate future requests. So that's what we haven't done yet, is the authenticating future requests. 85%. So that's what we haven't done yet, is the actually like making protected routes where you need to be authenticated to see them. So that's what we'll start with next week. Okay. All right. Thanks for staying late on a Friday. And I will, you too, James. Yeah, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend.